Yeah, you know what time it is. Valhalla Hour, let's go! Kick back, put on your headphones tight. Rob and Matt, bringing fire every night. From the land of 10,000 lakes, we rule the scene. With a crew so fresh, keeping it raw and clean. Minnesota Vikings, kings of the north. We wear our purple heart and let the battle roar forth. Breaking down the game, dissecting the plays. With passion so fierce, we'll set the night ablaze. So give us a follow, hit that like. Share it with your crew, you know we're about to strike. Valhalla, our podcast, living life bold, where legends are made and stories are told.
This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
Hey, how's it going? Happy Saturday. Rob and Chesterton are both gone, so you're stuck with me and Eric this week.
A show of shenanigans. Woo!
Right? Post-bye, finally. Get to go up against Philly, who's always a fucking thorn on our side, but they're not playing super hot, and it's finally in Minnesota, and it's a nooner. It's not prime time, so hopefully things will be a little more on our side. Carson Wentz, I don't know why everyone keeps saying it's a revenge game. He fucking destroyed his knee. It's not like they were going to keep him. But I guess you can call it a revenge game going up against his former squad, which there's now 5 of.
Yeah. He's got every other game's a revenge game for him.
Right. It's kind of like on the Power Trip where they have Mark Parrish on it. He played for about 8 NHL teams. And so every year they do a bet where Meat Sauce gets the Parrish field and Corey gets the rest of the NHL. But he's playing for so many fucking teams that Meat Sauce usually wins that bet because he gets half the damn NHL.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so post-bye, like I said, injuries, we're finally looking like we're getting kind of healthy. It looks like Blake Cashman's going to be back. Looks like Drake London, or not Drake London, God, that was a fucking slip. Donovan Jackson's going to be back. Unfortunately, McCarthy is still banged up, so Wentz is going to be the starter, although against Philly, that's probably not the worst thing. Sounds like the only one that we're really going to be missing is Van Ginkel. Did I see Grenard's questionable? That's not super great, but our young guys on the D-line have been playing really well. So,
Yeah, I didn't catch it the last day or two. Did they say anything about O'Neal?
it looks like he might be. I think he's questionable, but I think it's leaning towards him playing.
Nice. That's really good.
Especially when it was said it was an MCL. I'm like, oh great, this is going to be like a 6 to 8 week issue. And it's only been what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
3 weeks, yeah.
So yeah, that's huge to get back. Kelly, minimum of 4 games he has to miss. So I don't think he's allowed to even be back until like week 9 or 10. But Brandel's been playing really good at center these last 2 weeks. So obviously, I suppose you're paying Kelly, so you're going to probably start him when he's healthy. But I think we should make Brandel our new starting center. And I feel like in the group chat, that seems to be kind of the consensus.
I like I said, he really hasn't played there much, and I think he took some snaps in training camp this year and last year, but never preseason games or nothing. But he seems to have picked it up pretty well. I think it's a matter of making the line calls. It's probably the only thing he really had to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with getting Jackson back at left guard. We'll have the left side short up. It seems like Darrisaw is going to be off that sort of pitch count he's been on, hopefully, and he can play most of the game and not just sub in and out. So the left side should be pretty solid. If Brandel can keep playing solid at center and then getting O'Neal back, like McCarthy should hopefully get that line that he did not have the first 2 weeks to hopefully help him succeed once he inevitably does come back.
Yeah, it just, I think I don't. Oh crap! I'll be right back.
Yeah, you're good. So yeah, kind of like I was saying, like we just did not have an O-line the first 2 weeks, and so our run game was absolutely subpar. Aaron Jones couldn't get anything going. Mason couldn't get anything going. I think it was against Atlanta. McCarthy was sacked 7 times. So you don't succeed as a quarterback at any level. Kansas City in the Super Bowl a handful of years ago, when their entire O-line was out there playing all backups, Chiefs put up a whopping 9 points. So we saw Wentz against Cincinnati, which Cincinnati's defense is terrible. But he was able to play well because we at least had Darrisaw back. We had a semblance of an O line. Let's get him back up here. And so if McCarthy,
Sorry
like we
about
saw when, no, you're good. I was just kind of saying, like when McCarthy played against Chicago, when he at least had some protection, he was making some throws. So if we can get
yeah,
that O line back, he's got an okay enough arm, and we have Addison back, who he didn't have the first 2 weeks.
yeah, and I think it had been mentioned. I don't know if in here or one of the chats I was in, but about McCarthy needing, like a pocket like Cousins, a perfect everything to be perfect, and he doesn't. I just think it's better to get him back healthy, let him heal, and then let him do his thing. I also think that I think fans are okay with him sitting a little bit. I think if Bo
Yeah,
Nix and Jaden Daniels kept the fire they had from the rookie year, we would have been going like, what's wrong with this guy? We need to get him out there. We need to see. And I think it really helps that, like I said, Daniels and Nix and even Penix haven't been playing lights out, that we're really clamming to get him back.
right. Well, I keep seeing, especially with the last 4 games that Drake May has had, is like, well, the Vikings should have done more to get Drake May. And I mean, admittedly, I would have sold the next 5 years of picks to get Drake May. I thought he was going to be the next Josh Allen. I really wanted him. But he took his bumps for his entire rookie season. He had 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions his rookie year. It's not like he's just getting thrown out there and he's immediately balling out. Like I had mentioned on a Facebook post, this fan base begs to draft and develop so that way we can get young and good, but they fucking refuse to develop. It's
Yeah,
like, no, we
yeah,
have to draft and they have to be immediately impactful. Like Dallas Turner, he's been starting the last 4 games because Van Ginkel's been out, and he hasn't been bad at all. He's made some solid plays, but it's still like, oh, God, Dallas Turner. He's 22. Like everyone
yeah.
wants to say we should have drafted Jared Verse. He's 2.5 years older than him. We got to give these players time. He's not even close to entering his prime.
Right. And I saw an article, I think in the last week, that we actually offered the pick we used for McCarthy, the pick we used for Turner, and this year's first round pick, and I think a third and a second. I know a third for sure for
Yeah,
the Patriots. For the Patriots pick they used on May. They didn't want
yeah,
that's 3 first round picks, 2 in 1 year, and they said no.
yep,
So we tried to move up more than I thought we were going to, when as this stuff comes to light years later. But you know, any of these quarterbacks, I think, are going to be all these quarterbacks in that draft are going to be good. It's just a matter of getting them comfortable in their skin.
yeah. Which, I mean, with McCarthy, KOC's even kind of addressed this. Like we've all seen his footwork for the first 2 games, and he does have a really awkward kind of throwing mechanic, and he likes to kind of jump in his throws. And so KOC said that's something while he's been hurt but is able to practice that they are kind of trying to fix. And it's like he's got the things in the quarterback that you can't teach. He's got the moxie. He's got the smarts. He's got the determination. He's got the control of the locker room. Like he's a good leader. We've heard that. He's got a good arm. He's not like he doesn't make dumb throws. He's not inaccurate. The things that he needs to fix are things that are absolutely coachable. And again, he just turned 22 in August. So the kid is
Yeah,
still extremely young. He's easily the youngest quarterback in the NFL. Like Penix is 32. I mean, I think the next youngest in that draft class was May, and he's 23, going to be 24 soon. So give these players at least a year before we start writing them off.
yeah. I mean, because you're looking, I think, Penix was 23, 24. Bo Nix is now 24, turning 25. Who else was in that draft? Caleb Williams.
William, yeah. Hop it up, Justin.
Justin McFadden. This show is a joke.
Hop it up. Share your wisdom.
No, but
Yeah, I mean, that was. Go ahead.
I was gonna say this week is big. We're getting a lot of these guys back pretty close to healthy, if not all the way healthy. And I was just looking back at some of the Eagles' last, 3-4 games, and what scares me the most is Saquon hasn't busted a big game yet, and that really makes me nervous.
Yeah, right.
And Hurts hasn't thrown the ball a ton. I mean, I think he's had 2 games over 200 yards passing,
Mm-hmm.
and so their offense really isn't clicking. And if we can get their defense on their toes, or on their heels, I should say, I think we got a chance to give them a good run. It's just like I said, their offense has not been clicking, but that's what scares me too. Is
Mm-hmm.
it going to hurt? Because they had this nice little mini bye, and they got a chance to get healthy as well. So I got to take another call.
Yep, you're good. Well, the bright side to Saquon is he is having a really bad season, but at the same time, we're getting Cashman back, and he's easily our best run defender. I think Ivan Pace both leads this team in tackles, but also leads this team in missed tackles. He's just not been who he was his first 2 years. And when Cashman's on this field and when Van Ginkel's on this field, there's noticeable differences. Van Ginkel's not playing this week, unfortunately. But this is a markedly better run defense when Cashman's on the field. So I'm not super worried about Saquon. I don't think that this is going to be the game where he busts out. I'm worried about Dallas Goedert. He's been really good the last 2 weeks, and we've been struggling against tight ends. AJ Brown, I have him in fantasy, which means he's doing really poorly this year. But we just don't have, kind of like DK, we don't have a corner outside of Okuda that can match up to his size, and Okuda's really bad. So he might torch us and have game of the season. But overall, yeah, I'm not super worried about their offense. I'm very worried about their defense versus our offense.
Yeah, on the note with Ivan Pace, I think him and Eric Wilson are like 1-2 in tackles. I think Wilson may be one ahead of him now, but I think we talked about it in our chat a little bit. I'm more worried about the fact that Grenard has a higher missed tackle rate than Pace. At I think Pace is at like 25% missed tackles, and Grenard's at almost 29% of his tackles missed.
Yeah,
And Pace is way more tackles. So I think that kind of makes me a little nervous too, because I think we need Grenard prides himself on being a great pass rusher, but even more so on being able to stop the rush, because a lot of pass rushing DNs can't do it. So I know he really prides himself on stopping the run. So, maybe it's just I hate to say this, but, they didn't play in the preseason. And then, you start getting your games under you, and then hopefully they got that rhythm back to tackle a little bit better, or more secure, better form tackling or something. I'm not sure.
yeah, because I mean it's been a pretty defense-wide issue of just wrapping up and not bringing him down, and it's really frustrating because we had that issue a handful of years ago where it's like we're getting to the ball super quick. You see it, tunnel purple jerseys around the player, but then they just fucking pop through and bust out a 15, 20-yard run or a 15, 20-yard pass because we can't wrap them up. So it's like just grab them by their damn ankles and drag them down. It's easier said than done. I get it, but we're paying these players a shit ton of money. Our defense has something like $160 fucking million spent between Hargrave, Allen, Grenard, Van Ginkel extensions, et cetera, et cetera. And the only one that's been elite the entire season is Isaiah Rodgers. He's with the number 2 or number 3 graded corner for PFF right now.
Yeah, he's been playing phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely have some bright spots on defense. I think, he said Rodgers has been playing really lights out. Redmond has stepped up unbelievably well. And, even Theo Jackson, I think he leads the team in defensive snaps. So, he's out there a lot. And obviously, sometimes you don't hear a guy's name is probably better than to hear it because he's not making mistakes. And we haven't heard a lot of negative about him. Granted, not a lot positive either, but
right.
You know the negative comments about blown coverage or stuff like that with Theo, which we were nervous going into the season, not knowing what we had with him. And so a quiet surprise maybe, and like you said
Right.
earlier, Turner's been playing quite solid, consistent. He's not, highlight reels or nothing, but he's playing good run defense, which we need out of him, and he's getting some pressure. So
Yeah.
there's a lot to work on, but there's also some really good positives on the defense too. So, um,
Well,
you know,
and as we're sitting here talking about Pace having a really poor tackling season, and the fact that, I mean, we have Eric Wilson, but he's obviously on the older end. I mean, he was outside of his prime when he was here 4 years ago. So, like, he's having a solid season, but he's obviously not the plans for the future. I've seen some people say that we should honestly maybe look at moving Dallas Turner to linebacker instead of having him as an edge, because he's actually been solid in coverage. He is a solid run defender, and then just keep Van Ginkel and Bernard as our peer edges, and then just kind of transition Dallas Turner to that Cashman role. At least until he can develop, and maybe in a couple of years when he's more physically fit, more in his age prime, then he can switch to edge rusher, and we can see what he does. But
that's an interesting take. I never thought about that one. That could be interesting.
yeah, I mean, it's something Flores, obviously, with him being kind of like a chess piece guy. And he said before when we first got him, and this is why I immediately wanted him as a coach over Zimmers. I forget who the player was, but they said that Flores went to him and were like, hey, what are you good at? Like, what do you feel like you excel at? And let's fucking figure out how to accentuate that to get the most out of your abilities. Whereas it was like, no, you're this position, you're playing here, and this is how you're going to play. It's like, no, when you draft players, you have to figure out how to get the best out of them. You don't go like, nope, you're going to fit my mold or else. You fit what they're good at, and you get the most out of your players. And we see that every year. That's why we always say Flores makes good players great.
Yeah, he really does. And like you had mentioned, Okuda is not playing very well, and he's also not playing a lot of snaps either. I think he's only between like 30 and 40% of the defensive snaps. So I think we have Metellus and Theo Jackson playing a lot of slot. I'm guessing. I haven't looked at the numbers, but the fact that Okuda's not playing more than 50% of the snaps so far means he's not out there a lot. And he was hurt,
Right.
I think. What, he missed 1 week, didn't he?
I think so, yeah.
And, so obviously we knew going into the season our cornerback depth was going to be sketchy, not our strong suit, one of our weaker points. So with him not getting a lot of snaps and playing more 2 corner, 3 safety, I think is a big change too, that we're not seeing what's the word I want? What we expected, maybe not so much. I thought we'd see a lot more Akuda on the field too, but maybe the 3 safety look is working. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of got a little bit of a false hope of Akuda in training camp because there was a few days where he looked like he was competent, and they were saying like, "Oh, he's kind of giving such and such a little bit of a fit." So it's like, okay, well, shit, maybe Flores is able to unlock him. It's like maybe a Sam Darnold situation. He's in year 5 or 6 in the league, and maybe he finally found a coach that can utilize his talents, and then we see him on the field in game time, and it's like, oh no, this is the reason that Kuda hasn't found a landing spot yet, because he's purely just there for size. He's getting roasted consistently. I think he's got like a 38 PFF grade in coverage. It's not good. Um, but I mean, we have Isaiah Rodgers, like we just talked about, to make up for it, so that helps. We absolutely need to focus on corner, which is kind of going to lead me into my next uh, thought. We talked about this as well earlier this week, of buyers and sellers at the trade deadline and what the Vikings would have to look like by then to be buyers or sellers. As of right now, being 3-2, McCarthy looking like he's going to miss this week, probably next week because they don't want to play him on a short week. If we lose these next 2, do you see us being buyers? Do you see us being sellers? Do you see us standing pat?
Excuse me. If we lose the next 2, I definitely think we turn into sellers. And I don't think it's going to be anybody we expect. I don't think it's going to be any of our new free agents. It may be like a Jurgens or a Brandel, maybe an Okuda, a Josh Oliver type, maybe. Not nobody, it's not going to be a Hutchinson or Addison, or maybe the biggest name I see if we become sellers going would be Naylor.
Okay.
I don't see. We have a good core, so I think we'd be maybe a way to term it is low key sellers.
Yeah. Just show you those like minimum salary contracts, get a bunch of late round pick type situations.
Yeah, get Okuda for a sixth this year and a seventh next year, or whatever whatever the market value would be. Just something to kind of lower
Right.
that in the middle, and maybe bank on next year's seventh round. You don't see a lot of seventh rounders making it, but we have a lot of success with undrafted free agents. So maybe using seventh round picks on priority free agents might be a way to go.
I'll say that kind of seems to be where Quasi's hit the most of his draft picks is in like rounds 5 through 7. Like we talk about Naylor, he's not great. He's wide receiver 3, but for a 7th round pick, like we're getting solid production out of him. And
Mm-hmm.
then like uh why am I blanking out his name? Tyrion Ingram Dawkins. He was a 6th round pick or a 5th round pick this last year. And in his rookie year, he's been really solid in the rotation. So we've seemed to kind of hit hidden gems late in the draft, and having all these 6th and 7th rounders wouldn't be the worst thing, like you said. If we split, do you, like, or with the next two, do you even see us being buyers for like mid-level players like that? Do you see us standing pat? Do you think we swing for a top corner to try to shore up the secondary for the playoffs?
Yeah, I would too. I definitely would think that if we win the next two, even the next three out of the next four, you know, definitely looking at like a Tariq Woolen, um, somebody maybe who's not having a great season, but has had success in in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't like again, like I said before, I don't think it's going to be any blockbuster names, but it may be some low key depth, not really depth, but potential, you know, potential starter type people. People that
Maybe
plug and
kind of
play and see what they do.
finally kick the tires on Asante Samuel, because this should be around the time where he's eligible to come back from it, or not eligible, but just kind of the time frame they predicted him to come back from his injury was late October, early November. So at least then you're not having to make a trade. You can bring him in, see if he passes the physical, and if he does, then yeah, give him 2-3 weeks to kind of get used to the defense and see what he can do towards the end of the season. My take on if we lose these next two, I mean, obviously, this is kind of like the not Hollywood, but I think we go big on sellers just to shed a lot of this cap that we have coming next year. I get the realistic is probably like you said, maybe at most we saw someone like Naylor, or maybe see like the biggest name, seeing if we can move Aaron Jones just because he's 30 and Mason's handled the role really well and Xavier Scott's looked good as a number 2. Maybe he's the biggest name we sell. But the Giants are looking to add a big name receiver if we absolutely just suck these next two. The Vikings are like, hey, we can't afford to pay Addis in 2 years. Maybe if the Giants are like, hey, we're willing to give you a haul because we really want a big name receiver, the Vikings were normally would say no, go like, hey, if you're gonna offer us a first and a fourth or something like that, or like, hey, you want to go, I mean, obviously this is a big name that I don't think the Giants would give up, but Dexter Lawrence or something like that, say like, hey, give us Addison in the 5th, we'll give you Dexter Lawrence. Maybe they do something like that just to not have to pay him. Or I could see us finally moving on from Hawkinson. He's had like one good game out of his last 17. He's due a lot of money over the next 2 years. That's someone that a team that's hurting on offense that just needs a playmaker can make a trade for. We can nab maybe a third for him. I think we try to shed maybe Hargrave. Like he just hasn't really lived up to how much he's been getting paid, and our young interior linemen have been playing really well. So I could see us moving on from like maybe one big free agent name that we brought in, or just again just a big contract that we need to get rid of. But yeah, Byers, I hope that we win these next two and we go out and either bring in Asante Samuel or do something because while we haven't given up a ton of points, I think we're third or fourth in least amount of points given up through the first 5 6 weeks with 97. We're still giving up a shit ton of yards. It's one of those like we're like 22nd in yards, but like eighth in points. We can't just keep getting gashed. Our red zone defense has been great, but the middle of the field defense, we need to bring in someone if we really want to make this a playoff team.
Yeah, and with our defense too, we have. I think we're like +2 in the takeaways, but like 3 of our 6 turnovers came in one game.
Right. Against Jake Brown.
We need. Yeah, yeah, we need the defense to kind of, I hate to say step up, but start producing some turnovers. Our sack numbers aren't great. I get it. We're missing Van Ginkel, who provides a spark on both interceptions and sacks. But, we were really hoping we could get away with a questionable secondary with a great front five. And it's really not really our great front seven, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And we're not getting the pressure that we were getting.
Right.
Maybe just plug the defensive line in. They had 9 sacks last night.
Right. Well, it's just kind of it sucks because the first 2 or 3 games we're sitting here talking about like, oh man, Hargrave and Allen already have a third of the amount of pressures through 3 weeks as we had the entire season last year, and then it just disappeared. And like we're playing quarterbacks again. Like the last good defensive game we had was against Jake Brown, but then we played Joe Flacco. Nothing did a ton against us. But they did enough to where it's like, come on, man. Like, we shouldn't be getting carved up like this against Joe Flacco, even though he just had a really good game in Cincy, but Cincy's offense is a far cry from Cleveland's. And then Aaron Rodgers, I get he's having a good season, but my God, like, he ran for a 13-yard first down gain on us. And that was the thing I said going into the game that we could not let happen was have a 40-something-year-old Aaron Rodgers run on us.
Yeah, I still don't understand how, like, after watching how the Steelers played against Cincinnati, how the hell did we lose to the Steelers?
I mean, they were 4-1.
Right, but they like the way they looked again. They weren't great against us. They looked awful against Cincinnati. Like how that's a game we could have and should have won. Looking back at it, and it just seemed like you had mentioned earlier, we just had nobody that could account for Metcalf, and then let Aaron Rodgers scramble for, if he scrambles for double digits, you did something really wrong,
right?
And so those moments right there kind of maybe hurt us a little bit. I don't know for sure, but it just seemed like honestly the only person who did anything against us was Metcalf.
Well, Gainwell.
Gainwell.
We can't even say we got gashed by Ward because we got gashed by Gainwell. So, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of one of those things where we thought an old Rodgers, where their only receiver was Metcalf, was going to be kind of a pushover. But Rodgers' first 2 weeks, he played really well. And we're kind of sitting here in the back channels as Vikings fans going like, did we fuck up not bringing in Aaron Rodgers? Because he looks like he's got it, and all he has is Metcalf. Like, what if he had Jefferson? And so we go in there in Ireland, and they just kind of put it to us, and our offense just couldn't seem to get it going. Obviously, TJ Watt was an absolute difference maker in that game with his tipped passes leading to picks and just kind of getting in Wentz's face. Like, he's a top 3 defender in the NFL for a reason. But you look at the schedule coming up, and we're going to be playing a lot of really good defenses. Philly's coming down the road, although Philly's, we'll get to this in our next segment when we talk about Philly predictors, but their secondary is not great right now, but it's still a really good defense. Baltimore, hopefully Lamar is still out because they're terrible without him, but when he's on the field, that's a completely different team. Detroit, Hutchinson's having a fantastic season. He's probably going to get comeback player of the year. We have a lot of really, really tough defenses over the next 4 or 5 weeks that we can't thank God our O-line's getting healthy.
Yeah. So a real quick story. You're talking about Rodgers, having Metcalf and what we could do with Jefferson. So my 13-year-old walks out on the on our porch, and I'm watching the game Thursday night, and Kirk Herbstreit just happens to say, as Jamar Chase catches a pass, the best wide in the game. And my 13-year-old, without missing a beat, like gets this look of shock on his face and goes, "What the fuck did he say?" And then turned beet red because he cussed without thinking. Because Jefferson's his favorite player, but just the fact that he called Herbstreit the fuck and didn't realize what he said, and he's like, "But he's not Jefferson." And I was like, "You got to agree," but it was just a great little comment about how everybody sees things different. Like Chase is a phenomenal receiver, and look at what Flacco did going from Cleveland to Cincinnati. So yeah, the Rodgers comparison of he's doing great with Metcalf. What would he do with Jefferson and Addison?
Right.
It's a great what if, but honestly, we didn't.
Yeah.
Then it would be, well, JJ could sit all season. We all just put JJ on the bench all season, another year to grow. You have this whole other debate, so.
See, but I think,
but
in hindsight, yeah, I think in hindsight, with how the season's gone so far, with him getting re-injured, if the narrative had been, hey, the Vikings want him to, he missed all last season with an injury. He hasn't taken the healthy reps in practice. He hasn't learned behind a good vet. His vet last year was Sam Darnold. Let him sit. Let him learn from a Hall of Famer like Aaron Rodgers. And I think Vikings fans could have swallowed like, hey, let's get him a year of healthy reps versus now it's, well, he's missed 22 of 25 available starts or something like, or 24 available starts. He's injury prone. It's a soft bench because the Vikings didn't like what they saw the first 2 weeks, and he probably is healthy, but they're just worried about putting him back out there because he's not who they're looking for. I think that narrative now is worse off than what it would have been had we signed Rodgers. And if Rodgers was playing at the level he's playing at in Pittsburgh here, we could very easily be sitting here at 4-1 going like, hey, the sky is the limit. I think that would have been fun. But like you said, at some point, McCarthy has to get the reps. It just sucks that he got hurt while he was getting the reps because now their narrative on him, excuse me, is mostly super sour. As far as the Chase thing, I got into this debate a couple days ago after that game, and what pisses me off is he had 16 catches on 18 targets, averaged something like 10 and a half yards a catch, and he had 160 yards. But again, that's on 16 catches. Like his yards per catch this season has not been great. Him and Higgins are getting force fed the ball because they're always playing from behind. They have a losing record. If you gave Jefferson 18 targets a game, he's putting up 150 yards a game, and it's not question. It's like, and people are saying like, "Well, Carson Wentz is better than Joe Flacco." No, the fuck, he's not. He's on his sixth team in 6 years for a reason. I would take Joe Flacco as our backup right now over Carson Wentz in a heartbeat. And that's not just because of what he did this last week. When he was in Cleveland a few years ago, he had a really good stretch of games and took him to the playoffs. So yeah, I'm still.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
When he took Cleveland to the playoffs, was that the year we were going through the Nick Mullins, Jaron Hall?
I think so. Yeah, just like the 4 starters in one
Josh,
season. Josh,
what's his name? And
Astronaut.
Flacco.
Yeah,
and we all wanted Flacco that year, and we ended up with those guys.
Right. And Cleveland ended up going to the playoffs, and we famously did it. And Jordan Love got in because they won one more game than us, and they beat Dallas, and now Jordan Love's the future GOAT. So, yeah, it's frustrating to see. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, man, don't say future GOAT for them. I can't take it. I can't take them having, pretty successful drafts on quarterbacks. That just fucking hurts.
No, he's not the future GOAT. I like Jordan Love's a good quarterback. So before I slander him for things that he rightfully deserves to get slandered for, I will preface it by saying he is a good quarterback. But we need to stop with this great talk. I don't give a shit where he ranks in yards per attempt. I don't give a shit where he ranks in passer rating. The dude has a terrible game for every good game, and he has for his last 2 seasons, and he has for this season. Last year, he had 7 games where he had 1 touchdown or less. It was like 4 games with 1 touchdown, 3 games with 0 touchdowns. So for every 3+ touchdown game, he really had a half touchdown game. And then this year, yeah, he has the first couple games where he plays really well. And then he throws a fucking terrible game losing interception versus Cleveland. And then, yeah, he balls out versus Dallas, but who hasn't balled out versus Dallas on offense this year? And then that's another concern for Green Bay is your defense that you paid $47 million for one part-time defender, gave up 40 to CeeDee Lamb, those Cowboys offense. So they have a lot of soul searching, even though they're 3-1-1 and technically lead the division because of win percentage. Every team in this division has a lot of soul searching to do, and I don't think that we have to worry about Jordan Love being a Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers type, at least not yet, because he's just not there yet. But
No,
I suppose we're
you're right. This division last year was one of the best, in NFL, and this year we seem average, and I think we all expected so much more from the Lions and us and Green Bay to keep that fire going, that it's just, and everybody's has winning records, but the 3 I mentioned, we expected, the Lions to be undefeated at this point, and the Packers and the Vikings to be 4-1, and this division just to be lights out again, and we all had high hopes that the North was going to be phenomenal, and we're just not getting what we anticipated. We all knew there would be drop off with the Lions with losing both coordinators, but it's still football is football. That's why it's you play on Sundays, because paper you don't win on paper.
right. I mean, that being said, though, we are, I believe, the only division in the NFL where every team has an above winning record. So, I mean, there is still that. Like, yeah, granted, we're all kind of outside Detroit, 3-1-1 or 3-2, but we all do have winning records, and there has been a lot of interdivision games early in the season. So now that we kind of have like an out of division stretch of the Chargers, the Eagles, the Ravens, we can finally kind of start to get wins that don't knock each other down. I think Caleb Williams is starting to kind of look good. That defense is starting to turn around, and Odunze is having a fantastic season. So I see them finishing above or with a winning record. I feel like we still will if we can finally get healthy and stay healthy. We should finish with 9, maybe hopefully 10 wins. And Green Bay and Detroit are obviously going to finish with double digits. So I do think we'll still finish as a top 2, top 3 division in the NFL. We'll just see if we have the same cumulative playoff successes we had last year, which obviously was 0. But
that was embarrassing.
Yeah, at least we all got embarrassed, though. That always helps. But to get to the playoffs, we got to beat good teams, and that starts tomorrow with Phillies. So we're going to talk about Philly predictors. Or as we always say, like, what are your keys to the V? What do you think we have to do tomorrow to give us a chance?
I think the defense, I don't even know how to start this. My thoughts on this one. The defense needs to stay consistent. Like I said earlier, Saquon hasn't been playing great. Hurts hasn't been throwing lights out. So if we can keep the pressure on, keep Saquon from breaking big ones, and the offensive line finally starting to gel, I think those are 2 big keys. Not giving up the big plays to Saquon, and our offensive line playing well together. And I think just giving Wentz the time, I think it'll pay off in the long run, throughout the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, like I kind of mentioned earlier, I haven't looked at their injury report for the Eagles yet, but from what I've seen from their fans, They're a little worried about their secondary, saying a lot of their corners are either just underperforming or just straight up injured. Obviously, that helps us because Addison's back. He's finally, after being here for a couple weeks, should be rust off, back in the groove, a little bit of a rapport with Wentz, hopefully by now. Jefferson's still having a stellar season. He's playing great every game. If we could buy him 3 seconds, Wentz should be able to pick apart what seems to be a struggling secondary. We're no strangers to good D lines this season so far, and I don't think the Eagles D line is that much more formidable than, say, Cleveland or the Steelers. What worries me is Mason's having an okay season. I saw he's got like mid 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. He wasn't really starting until week 3 because Jones was getting the majority of the carries. But he just, outside of the Cincinnati game, he hasn't really had like a wow game. And we haven't seen a wow run game from a Vikings running back really since Dalvin Cook. Like, as well as Jones played last year, we never really had like those 60-yard breakout touchdown runs that we desperately need to help this offense just get a spark. That is what kind of worries me tomorrow is, again, it's just going to be one-dimensional. We're going to have to rely on Wentz throwing. Well, I mean, I can't even say that because I think we're 22nd in the NFL in passing attempts per game. So it's not like we're just forcing the pass, but if we're going to be 22nd in passing and also have an ineffective run game, you're not going to win a lot of games. So I want to see Mason finally have a good game versus a good defensive line, and our offensive line obviously needs to give him the holes to do it. So that's going to be my biggest concern. Is I'm just kind of being repetitive at this point. If we don't run, it's going to force Wentz to throw, which unfortunately is going to lead to mistakes, which is going to lead to turnovers, which is going to lead to us losing. We just need to play a clean game. Hopefully, get even 100 total yards rushing between Mason and Scott, and I think we could actually take it.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. You're right. We haven't had, even like you said with Jones, we haven't had that breakouts, even 30, 40-yard runs. We just haven't seen a lot of big chunk run plays where, it gives a big momentum boost and flips the field. Hopefully, yeah, with the offensive line getting getting healthy again, that'll help. And I think, having Scott get more reps, not majority of the reps, but more than he was getting when Jones was healthy. I think it's an added dimension with his, background as a receiver. Mm-hmm. Even, putting them both in the field at the same time may change things around. And, I should, I guess, come back and say that in that, last game when Akers threw a touchdown and Naylor had a nice end around, I had really been knocking O'Connell on his lack of creativity. And I don't know if he heard me or just figured it out himself, but I was happy to see some varied offensive of style. It just seemed we'd gotten in a rut maybe offensively that I don't want to say predictable, but same formation, same play, same packages.
Yeah.
Maybe changing that up just a little bit, and it was nice to see, Oliver get a touchdown and Scott get a receiving touchdown. And it opened, I think, playing that way where, you're, I don't want to say lesser players, but you're role players, your guys who are just filling the role, or not just filling the roles, but are filling roles that are important, open up the door for your Addisons and Hawkinsons and Jeffersons to get open, because teams start seeing, Xavier Scott make a freaking back of the end zone 2 feet in touchdown catch. They're going to start saying, oh shit, we got to watch ourselves in the red zone with this guy too now. It just, right. I think variation really opens up the door for Jefferson and Addison, especially those two.
Well, like we've seen that with Detroit, where you have Montgomery, you have Gibbs, you have Laporta, you have Williams, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then you have like those kind of ancillary receivers. Like what was it last year? I can't remember that receiver's name that just kind of had a good season, and then they lost him this year. And now they have this other new guy that just kind of came out of nowhere, who, as a wide receiver 3, is putting up decent games where he's just making some sneaky good plays. And we sat here all offseason saying about, well, we have Jefferson, we have Addison, we have Jones, we have Mason, we have Hawkinson. Like, you can't guard all those players, and we still have Naylor, we still have so and so, we still have so and so. And we, like you said, we just haven't been utilizing it. It's force it to Jefferson, force it to Addison, for some reason, and I'm a staunch KOC defender, but you're absolutely right. This season, with what we've had taken as far as injuries and like ability to run this offense, you have to adapt, and he just didn't. It's like you're expecting our O line to hold up for these long developing routes that we can't let develop because our O line's not holding up, but you're not changing it to have some like runs around the edge instead of up the middle because we can't block. So maybe see if they can break on the outside and take something, or maybe have Wentz and McCarthy ditch the ball in 2 seconds instead of holding, waiting to see if Jefferson and Addison can make it 30 yards downfield. You need to adjust. And like you said, KOC just up until last week hadn't really made those adjustments. And so it's going to be interesting to see if he keeps that kind of sneaky play calling where he does take people off guard with those kind of ends arounds or has a running back throw a touchdown, or if he's going to be like, hey, our offensive line's healthy now, so I can finally go back to the playbook I wanted, and now I'm going to force Wentz to sit there and wait for these long developing plays again. So I guess we'll see which KOC comes out. I mean, he was coach of the year last year. I watched the segment before the show today where they were talking. It was the Judd Zolgad where he was like, there's a segment of Vikings fans that want KOC gone. They're starting to call for his head. You look around the NFL at the 32 teams, and he said that there's maybe 6 teams that, as of right now, are like, hey, our coach is fucking awesome. The rest are like, even like Philly fans, the last 2 weeks, they're 0-2 in the last 2 weeks. Saquon's having a terrible season, really. And they're probably calling for Sirianni's head. I see Ravens fans calling for Harbaugh's head. Like, these are coaches that have either won Super Bowls in their careers or as recently as last year. And so it's like, look around the NFL, man. Great coaching is not easy to come by. And if your biggest gripe about KSC is sometimes it can be predictable, like his record as a coach for the Vikings speaks for itself. And we haven't had a great team yet. It's always something, whether it's the quarterback going down or, I mean, we've had 13 starters missing at some point this season, and he's still finding a way to be above 500.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not saying I would rather have nobody else be our coach right now. So the fans out there that are clamoring for his head, I don't think see the bigger picture because, you know, I hate to throw around this pretty cliche, but the culture has changed with this Vikings team. They're upbeat, they're positive, no matter what happens. They don't give up, and that's a lot to do with him. I just, you know, I keep hearing he's this offensive genius, this great offensive mind, and sometimes it just seems like, oh, Jefferson on a hitch and go, Jefferson on the, you know. I think part of it too, you're right, is the injuries, and you have to adjust. And but even like I said last week, you had Akers, and I missed it. I didn't even see it. I was like, I didn't realize Akers threw the ball till they showed the replay. I was like, what? You know, you had it didn't work. It didn't work, but there was a tight end screen to Hawkinson. You had a very nice end around with Naylor. You know, the creativity is there. I just sometimes wonder if he's tentative to use it.
Right.
You know, you see, yeah, you see, you know, Dan Campbell don't give two shits what people think of him and whether his plays work or not. You know, and sometimes you want that mentality with your coach. We're gonna, you know, do a double reverse on 4th and 8. Whether it works or not, I don't know. It's, you know, 4th and 4, we're gonna fake a punt. You know, sometimes it just go for gold. You know, go for the balls, go for step on the throat, do what you got to do to spark things. You know, if it works, now you've got momentum, you have you know confidence, and things change real fast in the NFL. In you know any NFL game when you switch momentum and confidence, and things can get out of hand real quick if you lose it. So
yeah,
you know, like I said, there's nobody I'd rather have as our head coach going into the future and currently. And you know, but like any fan, sometimes like I like to you know, nitpick, and I guess maybe that's more what it was with me was nitpick. nitpicking at some of the decisions, and it goes back to the tush push last year with Powell being the pushback. Like
Twice.
the dude's a 55 soaking wet. Come on now.
Right.
You have CJ Ham. You have backup tight ends that could be back. It's just great idea, but getting Powell out on a little like quick pitch out or something. But it just seemed like it wasn't the right thing to do at the right time. So
yeah,
like I said, I think we struck gold with O'Connell, and I wouldn't, I just think sometimes maybe it's like I said, he was coach of the year last year, so you can't argue with that. But I just like to see a little bit more, and it came out last week, or not last week, before the last game, a little bit more of the creativity. So
yeah. Well, and like you brought up culture, and we saw this with Zimmer. We're currently seeing it with Mike McDaniels in Miami. It's all fun and games, and it's great. And like when Zimmer was first here, and I went to training camp, and he was making the players do push-ups because they dropped a pass. I loved that shit because we had been so quote unquote soft in the years prior with the Leslie Frazier era and stuff like that. It was great to see this hard ass coach come in, and it felt like the team was finally being held accountable. But then the last 3 years here, we're struggling to even go 500, and then stories start coming out that he's leading this like whatever culture of fear, and that players couldn't even look at him in the eyes in the hallways without getting yelled at. And it's like, okay, like it was the hard ass culture was fun while we were winning and while we were making the playoffs, but now the players hate you and we're not even winning games. So like, get the fuck out of here. And McDaniels in Miami is like, oh, there's this young coach that's connecting with the players. He's got all these vibes, and like they were an okay team his first year, but now they're absolutely abysmal. He looks like he's aged about 20 years. Everyone hates Tua. And so now it's like, well, how is McDaniels even still coaching them? Like, it's great while you're winning games in KSC. We put up with this like player friendly coach, and like he I guess that's the knock, because he doesn't seem to be a hard ass. But even now in his last press conference, when he was kind of being a little short with his words and a little salty towards the reporters, now they're turning on him saying like, "Oh, here's KOC the asshole." Well, what do you fucking want? Like, you call him too friendly, and now he's too much of an asshole. I guess he can't win either way. But it's great when we're sitting here at like 36 and let's say 17 or whatever his record is as a coach. But if we truly start to have some of these 6-7 win seasons, especially in back-to-back seasons, yeah, no, it's going to be the same thing. Well, nope, we need to bring in this hard-ass defensive mind. We should have brought in Harbaugh. So I feel like it works, especially for this new generation of NFL players, where it seems to be less about the team and more about me. He seems to bring in these players that are still about the team. Like Philly, again, they won a Super Bowl last year, but you still have their best receiver, A.J. Brown, bitching about not getting targets. It's like, you fucking won the ultimate prize and you're still bitching. Meanwhile, this team that we have here hasn't won a playoff game since KOC's been here. But every year they run through a fucking wall for each other, and we get the most out of each other because he gets this team to realize it's more than just about ourselves. And it's about like, hey, what can we do for each other? And he does a really good job, we see in his post-game locker room speeches, of highlighting players that aren't all Justin Jefferson. He's bringing in the ancillary characters and giving them game balls. So like, hey man, like we really couldn't have done this without your performance. And I love that. But again, it only works as long as you're winning games.
Right. We all, I mean, it's been a long time since I played. I won't say exactly how long because I don't want to give it all away. But, my coaches used to tell me, I'm not your friend, I'm your coach. I'm here to teach you. You're here to learn from me. We are not friends. You do what I tell you, and you'll play well. And I think you want to find that happy medium between Zimmer and McDaniel, and I think O'Connell is the closest I've seen. Maybe Shanahan a little bit, but I think what speaks for itself is how highly Daniel Jones has spoke of how that quarterback room was run, how much he learned from McCown and O'Connell and the other quarterbacks in that room that turned his career into what it's being this year in Indy. He has done several interviews where he talked about what he learned and how he learned to do things different from this coaching staff. So potential is there. And I think it's just a matter of figuring out the risk versus reward of because we all know Flores loves to take risks on defense, and
Right.
you live by the blitz, you die by the blitz type of theory. But I don't want to get into the rut of we're going to live or die by the long ball, because we have great, Addison and Jefferson can run slants and can run little fades and can run, Addison can run the end around. Naylor can do it in around. Jefferson, we've seen him run out of the backfield before. Some of the stuff that we've seen in the past will work to get that deep ball. Sometimes, they always say, run the ball to open up the pass. Sometimes we need to maybe pass to open up the run or whatever. But
yeah,
honestly, we kind of got sidebarred here, but I think O'Connell, like I said, is the closest you can find between that hard ass, you're going to do push-ups every time the ball touches the ground, and that, we're going to go have, mimosas and drinks together every Saturday.
Let's go get our nails done. Yeah.
There's that. and
Right.
I think O'Connell walks it pretty close. I think he's, he's not doing, TV commercials with his players yet, like Andy Reid, but we'll get there.
You got to get a ring before you can do that. But you actually made a really good point about, like, we always talk about how you gotta get a good run game to open the pass, but maybe we gotta get a good pass game to open the run. The 1 week so far this season where we've had a 100-yard rusher was against Cincinnati, and that just so happened to be the game where Carson Wentz had 2 touchdowns and was torching a bad Cincinnati defense. Which again, it's a bad Cincinnati defense, but there's something to that. Like, you're not going to respect the passing game, so you can sell it to the run. If we can start carving these people up, they can't just stack 8 in the box and be like, well, we're just going to let bad Carson Wentz beat us. No, you got to start dicing people up and getting 300 yards a game, and then they'll be forced to let us run, and then maybe we'll finally start seeing Jones and Mason each get 60-plus yards and a touchdown, hopefully, because we need to get the run game going. But we got 2 minutes left, so we'll do score predictions. I'll let you go first.
Oh, I hate doing scores, but I'm going to say 24-14 Minnesota. And you know what? I'm gonna jump on your bandwagon. Mason gets not 100, but he's going to get over 80, between 80 and 100 rushing yards.
Okay. I'm with you. Every time I feel like I'm actually optimistic about the Vikings against a tough defense, for whatever reason, I always eat my own words and we get shellacked. But again, with the Eagles' defense, their secondary kind of being banged up, Wentz being in the offense for another week, it's been a bye week. He's taken all the first team reps. He's probably a little more comfortable. Addison's a little more comfortable. I think we could do a good job, especially at home with the home crowd. I'm feeling 28-21 Vikings. The Eagles' offense has been kind of mediocre, and they haven't been playing great teams. I feel like we're still a good team. So if it was on the road, I feel like this would be like a 32-20 kind of Philly win. But since it's here, I'm going to say 28-21 Vikings. And for the love of God, can we just stay healthy?
I like it.
We got a short turnaround, but then we have another kind of mini bye after the Thursday night game. The Chargers, kind of looking ahead to next week, the Chargers, like Philly, started off super hot. They've been not bad, but they're definitely not who they were the first 3 weeks these last couple of weeks. So maybe we're getting the Chargers at the right time as well. But that's all we got.
I mean, they lost running back 1 and running back 2.
Yeah.
I think Hampton's on.
Yeah, they're both out, but they do get Quentin Johnston back, so that kind of sucks. But it's time to go. Have a good week, Skull, and we'll see you next Saturday.
Yeah, yo, it's game time, ain't no messing around. Huddle Sports Network, the best in town. From NFL rumors to the latest trends, we got all your sports, just tune in, my friends. Catch us on Roku, Fire Stick, take your pick. Facebook, YouTube, where the action's slick. Daily shows that drop like a bomb. From 10 to 11, it's Ken and Ken, stay calm. Huddle up, catch the vibe, feel the rush. Get your news, get your fills in the clutch. Over 27 podcasts, we breaking it down. Join the team, Huddle Sports, wear the crown. Live every weekday, it's how we roll. Lions Talk with Jeremy B, we taking a stroll. From 11 to 12, don't miss a beat. We break down the game, make the info sweet. The Daily Huddle Podcast, noon to 1. CST Zone, we're just having fun.